Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Welcome to another live event from my office. I hope you are all doing really well. I hope your first week back went well. I have to say, guys, I'm just going to say it. Trent hates it every time I say it, but there was a full moon this at the end of the week. And I was really experiencing that full moon, not only at school, but at home too. So it was interesting. Ooh, loud. I was also talking to Trent that sometimes I feel like I'm yelling at you guys because it's as if I'm trying to project my voice through the camera and somehow make it to wherever you are. So I need to be really careful with how loud I'm speaking. So if you guys feel like I'm yelling at you, just let me know in the comments. All right, so hi everyone. I see so many of your faces that I see every week, and I am so unbelievably thankful for you. So Alexis, Luz, G-Rod, Leslie, Rochelle, all of you are always here. And again, I just cannot thank you enough. Sounds way over. Am I too loud? Maybe I should tone it down. Oh, Kimberly. So Kimberly mentioned in the comments that she loved this week's podcast. So I loved it too. I even told Michelle, which is Pocket Full of Primary, I told Michelle that I felt like we were so much more natural in that second one than we were in the first one. And if that says anything, like I just feel like we're going to get better and better and better at it, which makes me really excited for the possibilities. I have to say, guys, like I have been loving me some podcasts. If you have not listened to Teaching to the Top, it's the new podcast launched by Michelle from Pocket Full of Primary and myself. I highly encourage you to go and get a listen to it. We are on Podbean, we're in iTunes, we are in Google Play, I believe. I think we also got into Spotify. I think we've gotten into Spotify. I need Trent to confirm that for me. But yes, I felt like it was so good, right? And we have some really good ones coming for you guys, like very soon. I am going to go ahead and ask that if you have not left a review on iTunes, if you just give us some stars, leave a comment. It really helps to kind of push our podcast out there and helps promote it for us. So we would sincerely appreciate that. So I'm so happy that you love it. Hello from New Mexico. Hi, I love New Mexico. I have some people that I know there. So hi, my dad also really loves it there.
I lived there.
You lived there. Trent actually lived there.
In Rio Rancho.
Rio Rancho. Don't know where that is. I was more of an Albuquerque person. Is that close to Albuquerque?
Half hour north.
All right, that's not too far. Let's see. I'm just trying to chime in and say hello. Is it up on Spotify?
It says that it is, but I don't know how to search.
Okay, so Time to Teach. It says that we are up on Spotify. You might want to just check for it, but we have not gone through and confirmed and double checked everything. So you might want to just check, but thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so I really quick want to say, guys, that I am doing this live chat, and this one is going to be one that I'm going to keep posted up on my channel. So I'm not going to hide this one because it is something that I am very passionate about, which is the bridging literacy method that I've worked to develop over the last couple of years. And so I'm going to be talking you guys through it. I know you hear me talk about it every once in a while, like you hear those terms thrown out there, but you're like, what in the world is she talking about? So today I'm going to kind of give you a little glimpse of what bridging literacy is to hopefully help explain it a little further. And right before we get going and we get started, I want to say that you have a chance. Again, we're going to do, like we do sometimes, some giveaways. You have a chance for another giveaway. So this is going to be for a year membership into the Bridging Literacy community, where you get access to posts that I will put up, any resources, and some different changes are coming to the community, which I'm really excited about. One of the things that I am working on doing, which I have to do right after this episode this chat, is to record an audio, like podcasty version. I think it's going to be so much more fun for people in the community to be able to listen into some of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about and sharing in there versus having to read like a book, because sometimes ain't nobody got time for that. So I ended up like last minute was like, ooh, maybe I should make this into a podcast, because I feel like I could explain it so much better than I can write it. So that's going to end up being what I'm doing, hopefully, this evening. Let's see. I'm just chiming in, saying hello to some people. Hello, Bowtie Teacher. So happy to have you on here. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Let's see. Is Unicorns Rockin' here too? Yep, she is. Hey, girl, how are you? I see so many of you guys. All right, so really fast, before we get started, I want to mention that you have a chance to enter in to get that year subscription of the Bridging Literacy community. And here's how you're going to do it, okay? I got super sidetracked, I think, for a second there. But in order to get it, I'm going to ask that you tell me about your literacy block. So I want to know your schedule. Like, what does your literacy block look like? Do you spend 15 minutes doing a read aloud, and then you have like 3, 20-minute small groups, and then you do like a writing lesson after that? Like, give me like a little breakdown. It doesn't need to be super in depth. It can just be 15 minutes this, 30 minutes this, an hour for guided reading. It can be super generic, just so that I have an idea of how you go about giving your reading and writing instruction. So if you want a chance to win, I'm going to ask for you to put that into the chat. I know it's a little bit of a longer response. It's not as easy, and you're probably like, ain't nobody got time. But I promise you, it's for good reason. And it's going to bring about a lot of really deep and great conversation, is what I'm hoping. I'm crossing my fingers on that. So yeah. Kim says that she loves the podcast as well. Thank you so much. You guys have no idea how much I am so grateful that you are loving and listening to the podcast, because it is something that Michelle and I have been really, really excited about. Like, we're really into it. And mainly it's because we don't have to like glam up in order to do a podcast. We can be like super scrungy with our hats and like PJs and, just chatting in a dark room versus having to have lights, cameras, everything going on. It's just a totally different world, but it's a fun one, a very, very fun one. Okay, so while I'm letting some of you guys enter in some of your information into the chat, how was your last week? Like, give me a little bit of information on how your week went. Mine was okay. It got a little crazy there towards the very end, where I felt like, I don't know, the kids were just like, there were lots of like mood swings happening. And I know that I have 6th grade, and I know they start to get very moody, but I had some like severe mood swings happening in my classroom. So that was one thing. And then Sweet Blaine, like, he was just like off the walls, like wild, which is like a whole other thing. So like, it was just super stressful. Like, I felt stressed the entire time. I also had a snow day. Unicorns brought up that she did not have a snow day. I did have a snow day on Wednesday, and it was really interesting because it started snowing, y'all, Tuesday afternoon. Okay, so it was like right towards the very end of the school day. Like, it was at about 1 o'clock. Wasn't sticking to roads or anything, so everything was fine. We stayed and we did the whole day on Tuesday. But the entire time I'm thinking, they should have closed early. They should have closed early. I'm going to have to drive home in this. And it wasn't too bad. So I was okay there. However, I do have to say that like, it got like really intense. Like, it was hitting really, really hard. And it ended up stopping at about 8 o'clock. Ended up canceling wrestling. So my Blaine goes to wrestling practice. Canceled wrestling practice. we get the call, and I'm like, we're only going to have a 2-hour delay. That's it. Well, we get the call because everything froze overnight. It went down to like 27 degrees, froze overnight. We got a 2-hour delay. And then as I'm like getting ready, Trent went out to go and like try to scrape off all the snow from the car. And it was like ice. And I almost slipped and fell and almost busted my butt, like as I'm trying to take out Walter in the morning. And I remember just texting, like, you know how we all have it, like those like group texts that you sit there with all your teacher friends at school, and you're sitting there just like texting. And I said, they should have called. They messed up. I can't believe they're going to have teenagers on the road. I can't believe my son is going to have to walk on the ice all the way to the bus stop. Just complaining like we all do, right? And lo and behold, then what?
Hitting the table.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And then lo and behold, they ended up calling. And so we ended up having a snow day, which was really nice. Okay, so I'm starting to see some of your schedules that are in here. So I see that we have a reading mini lesson, groups with choice board that lasts for 1 hour and 15 minutes. This is from Jillian. And then she does a writing mini lesson with independent work for 45 minutes. So you have a really good chunk of time, that's about a 2-hour block. That's pretty nice. Let's see. Sherry has 10 minutes of phonics warm-up, 20 minutes of student self to read, 15 minutes lesson or discussion, 15 minutes of reading rotations, followed by a 40-minute writing block. That's a really good, nice, happy chunk of time of writing, which is not too shabby. Okay, so you guys are going to totally understand why I'm asking for your blocks in just a second as we start to get ready to go into this little presentation that I'm going to show you. And it's going to be really nice if you go back and you kind of read through what everyone else's blocks look like. I think it's so interesting to see how they're arranged and scheduled. And a lot of time you have either administration who makes those choices for you and tells you how you're going to structure your day. Or if your administration or your district is a little bit more free flowing with that, you have the ability to kind of determine how much time you're spending in certain areas. So that is always interesting as well. And I'm sure Trent's going to get busy writing names, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're ready to get into our slideshow. My cameraman's going to do his magic. By cameraman, I mean my husband. He turns the camera, guys. All right. So many. As new people are starting to get into this chat, welcome. I am asking that if you would like a chance to enter to win a year membership with the Bridging Literacy community, to put in your reading schedule. I just want to get an idea of what your block looks like as we start to go into this presentation. Again, you're going to understand why I'm asking that momentarily. All right. You guys ready? I'm feeling ready. 2 hours of ELA time. Time flies so fast. I agree with you, Bowtie Teacher. Does. All right. So, guys, I've worked really hard over the past couple of years to develop this whole bridging literacy method or an approach, however you want to think of it. And I have to say, it has completely revolutionized how I do my instruction. It makes everything truly make sense. And I think what's so hard, and you guys can chime in and tell me if you agree with me or not, but I think what's so hard about ELA is that it is so unbelievably subjective. So when it comes to like those writing standards, like they end up saying that they need to fully develop a character and a setting. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? I mean, there's so much subjectiveness that can come from it, that teachers always say, well, what is exactly that I'm supposed to be doing? And I know I've mentioned this before, but like, I feel like sometimes I could be teaching my summarizing one way, and then the teacher right across the hall from me is teaching it in a completely different way. And so we always get really frustrated, and I think we are very self-conscious as teachers because we want to be doing the right thing. And I feel like we are really, really, really hard on ourselves, that we're like, am I doing it right? I don't know if I'm doing this right. And so we just don't feel super comfortable with giving our reading and writing instruction, just because, again, it's very subjective, very broad, and everybody has their own way of interpreting what it means. So when it's not broken down for you in an extent that all just kind of is spelled out, you're just like, well, am I doing this right? Like, is this the way that I'm supposed to be teaching it? And again, it's mainly because I feel like there's so many different approaches. And when you go online, I feel like when I first started going online for like ideas about instruction when I was in kindergarten, y'all, I feel like it's quadrupled since I was at the very beginning in like 2012. Like people were just starting to get like putting up different blogs and things to that extent. And now there's so much information that you're like having to weed through it and you're like, is this what it is or is this it? And again, it's because everybody has their own opinions on it. So I think it's just, I don't know. It's just, that's kind of my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Like, I just feel like it's just, I don't know. It's very subjective. Okay. I'm like trying to read comments as I'm talking. And so sometimes I tend to forget where I'm going with things. That's all the truth, guys. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So what is bridging literacy? So in a very easy way, bridging literacy is a simple approach to providing reading and writing instruction within one mini lesson, okay? Because this is the important part. I really wanted to make one mini lesson big and bold because I want you to understand that I'm not doing two different instruction times. So it's all kind of put into one good mini lesson time. I'm going to move this a little bit just so that I can kind of see. I'm sorry. That makes it work so much better for me. Okay. So it's that one mini lesson time. And when I say this, I want to say that it's connecting reading and writing, guys. And I think this is what a lot of people have always said. Connecting reading and writing, it's not new. Okay. This isn't something that's like a brand new concept that's out there. I think we as teachers, good teachers, have always made the connections between reading and writing instruction. That's just what we do. We find those connections to help our students better understand the new concepts or skills that we're giving them the instruction with, right? That is not new. What's new with bridging literacy, or what makes it unique in and of itself, is the unified approach, is the fact that I am truly kind of, what is that called? That word called when you almost put something together and it's like stuck together. I can't even think of it now. I can't even think of it. When you're putting like fibers together and they get stuck together and now they can't be removed. It's that same idea, okay? Everything's put into one little time. Okay, as I'm going through, guys, I'm going to try to be really good about looking at the comments, making sure that everybody's kind of good, following along, feeling what I'm feeling. Everything's good. Kristen says, love that idea. It is fantastic, let me tell you. And I have to say, Kristen, like, I feel like the best thing about it is that there's less work on my part, which I don't think any teacher would hate. Let's just be honest. All right, let's move on. So here's where those blocks that I have been asking for comes into practice, because I want you guys to understand this. So I put down two different examples of what reading and writing instruction looked for me before bridging literacy happened, okay? So this was if I was to have a 2-hour block. 15 minutes would be some sort of a read aloud. 15 minutes would then be towards having an explicit comprehension. That's your mini lesson, right? I'm going to do it. We're going to do it. Now you're going to go off and do it type situation. That's the scaffolding piece that we always talk about. Again, it's just good reading and writing instruction. And then an hour of guided reading groups. So you would have about 3 or 4 different groups rotating for every 20 minutes type of situation while students are working independently or reading, journaling, that type of thing. And then afterwards, we would have 30 minutes to be able to have for writer's workshop. That also included the mini lesson. So by the time you were done with the mini lesson, let's say it was about 10 minutes at most, students have about 20 minutes in order to be able to go out and practice their own writing within that. Right? That seems about right? This 1 hour and 30-minute block schedule was what I had before I did my bridging literacy change. So I had about an hour of guided reading groups. Now you have to remember, I never taught whole group. So I had an hour for guided reading groups. I would rotate them. Their lessons would be kind of interwoven into it. I only taught small groups. And then from there, I had about 30 minutes of writing instruction that, again, that also really included having the mini lesson. So I want to know, and I want us to get your typing fingers ready or your thumbs ready, wherever it is. I want to know, what are your thoughts on your own schedules? Do you like that? Do you like having the 2 different block times? Are you comfortable with it? What is it that you really struggle with the most when it comes to this type of schedule? So you have 2 different lessons. So let me get this straight, okay? Like if you guys are doing the 2-hour block, I'm going back and I'm going to look through some of your times. So you're planning about 3 or 4 lessons, right? That's 4 different small group lessons that you're planning for. Then you're planning for a whole group lesson. Then maybe you have a read aloud lesson. Then you have a writing lesson that you're having to plan for. And then on top of that, you're hopefully at some point within the day going to attempt to try and have some sort of conferring, right? That's going to occur during the day. That's a lot of things to be planning for only one day. Right? Do you guys feel me with that? I'm going to see what you guys have to say. Blaine is running downstairs. You can hear his little pitter patter. So we live in a pretty small house, guys. But bless it, like our downstairs, so we have a main floor, and then our basement, everything just echoes in this cute little house. Like, so anytime Blaine runs, it's like he runs with his heels, boom, 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 and I just hit the desk. So it's just funny. Melanie says, I'm always open to having a new schedule. Amen. That is the best. I love it. I love trying out new things. Having silent time after science afterwards. I have to teach science afterwards. That's a lot of things to be doing. It's a lot of things to plan for, right, guys? Like, it just can feel overwhelming. Many students need repeated instruction. It doesn't really seem effective. Jillian, why do you say that many of your students are needed repeated instruction? Like, I'm just curious. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more on that and kind of tell me what you think? 80 consecutive minutes of prep on some days, so it interrupts the flow. Holy mackerels, that's a lot of time. Let's see. They struggle with reading and writing. G-Rod, I totally understand you with that. And it's funny, well, it's not funny, it's interesting, that's the word that I'm looking for, that you're saying ESL group, because this bridging literacy idea came about when I started realizing some connections that I was making in 4th grade to what I did in kindergarten. And in kindergarten, I had a very heavy population of ESL learners. It was a lot of Hispanics within our community. And I found that I had to really make it simple, but then also engaging and relevant and authentic. And I needed to help connect those dots. And so this instruction really kind of came about from that. Is it possible to do this in a 45-minute class? Oh yeah, it's very much possible to do it in a 45-minute class. Okay, so as we start to keep going, I'm going to keep looking at the comments. But I really want to know, you guys kind of all have the same pretty much idea with your schedule. So let's look at how this looks different in a bridging literacy classroom. So here's what my instruction looks like now. And so my instruction is within an hour and 30-minute block. It can be really carved down to about an hour and 20 minutes, okay? And within this hour and 20-minute time frame, I always start off with some sort of a meeting, which I forgot to kind of put that in there, but I start off with some sort of a meeting. It lasts from about 5 to 10 minutes. And mainly it's us doing either book talks, me giving kind of directions on what we're focusing on, but that's really about it. It's super, super quick. Once I'm done with that, then we go into, I have 3 15 to 20 minute small groups, and then I have 30 minutes for individual conferences. 30 minutes. 30 minutes of individual conferences. So I have a lot of opportunity to meet with students one-on-one throughout my reading block. And this is every single day. What do you guys think about that? Let me know down in the comments. What do you think about having that much time to be able to individually confer and really help guide your students and help them understand any misconceptions that they're having based on the content that they're working on at that moment? What would you say to that? What would you say to having that time free to walk around, to have conversations with your students about reading and writing? What would you say to having that time to pull a flexible group if you felt like students were not really understanding something? What would you say to just having the time? Having the time is so important. But what would you say to that? Alexis says it sounds great. Alexis, I don't blame you. I think it sounds amazing. Having that time. And so when I sit down, guess what I plan for? 3 small groups. 3. And guys, I teach 3 different grade levels. One group is 6th grade, one group is 4th grade, and one group is 3rd grade. 3 groups versus the 6 or 7 that you guys are doing right now. What do you say to that? What do you think? Joanna says it sounds amazing. Time to Teach says that it's like absolutely magical to have that time. I mean, a lot of opportunities for goal setting. Daniel, it's absolutely right. Goal setting, feedback. Jillian says, I love this. Guys, it is absolutely amazing. Time to Teach, only 3. 3 lessons.
How big are the groups?
So my groups range from... So my 3rd grade group has 4 kiddos. My 4th grade, 3rd grade, 4 kiddos. My 3rd grade group has 9, and my 6th grade group has 8. And that's because I lost a couple of kids. So let me throw that out there. They ended up moving. So I had a small group, but they ended up moving. And my partner teachers, because you guys know I'm in a MAC team, so I'm a team of 3 teachers. So our 75 kids are dispersed between our 3 rooms. My other team teachers, one has only 2 groups that she plans for. Now, granted, they're bigger groups, but that's because those kids are all on the same area. We had them last year, so we were able to make sure that they were in the same area, which is like a benefit of multi-age. And then my other teacher, she has the same thing, 3 groups. That's it. What do you say? Like, you want to trade? No. I love my job. I love where I am. So I have to say, guys, it is so much less stress on me having to only plan 3 versus 6 or 7. Now, I also want to say, because I think somebody put in there about shared reading. Now, I have a read aloud time, and we do this as an entire MAC team. And so my read aloud time comes at the very end of the day. So we have because our schedule's kind of like choppy at the very end of the day, we have like 20 or 30 minutes before we pack up to go, and it's like not enough time for anything else. So Alexis, yeah, I know. but we ended up putting read aloud right there. So when we do our read aloud there, it's not a shared reading, but it is a read aloud. So what we do is we make it a little interactive, and we have a board that we keep track of characters. We create timelines. We have discussions that we'll do with it, but it's not a shared reading piece. If I do a shared reading, it would be integrated into my groups. So that's why I say that I only do three groups is what I plan for. The read aloud that we do together is kind of on a whim. And so I have certain kids that are responsible for the writing piece of it. They become the, what do we call them? They're note takers, but that's not what we called them. We decided on a different name. It'll come to me later on probably. So we have those pieces also built in at the very end of our day, but that's it. That's all I have. And so I have all this time to be able to confer with my students. And so when people ask me, how do you build in individual conferences? And I say, well, it's because of bridging literacy. It's the different approach that I'm taking. So I want to say that here, I also have on here, you're going to see some days like day 1, day 2, day 3. I typically try to make this happen within a week, guys. Some weeks it happens, some weeks it doesn't. It depends on how difficult the skill is. But each day is represented by something that they're focusing on. So we have day 1, which is like the engagement, the reading of whatever it is that we're reading, the mentor text, basic comprehension, inferencing, that type of thing. It's just getting them to know the book. They have to know what's happening in the book in order for them to see how I'm able to apply the skill that I'm learning to that text later, right? So it's that and vocabulary. Second day, and this has nothing to do with their independent time. So they might have stuff going on in independent time as well. We'll get into that a little bit later. So day 2 is the reading skill. So I show them exactly what reading skill it is. Maybe it's summarizing. Maybe it's just character traits. Maybe it's character change. Maybe it's setting. It all changes depending on what it is that we're focusing on. And then day 3 is looking at the author's craft. This is where the writing is integrated into it. Because once we understand that skill, we start to kind of dig a little bit deeper on how does this author truly use this and apply this into writing this book. And then they can pull it into their own writing. Day 4 is that grammar and word study, which is very, very important. And day 5 is a reflection, which I think it's very important to have our kids reflect, but they're also reflecting on the skill and the craft that we've learned that week to their own independent reading texts, which pulls that piece in, which sometimes tends to get ignored. So that's kind of the time to teach, family plans. Hey, go have fun with family. This is going to be up, so come back and check it out tomorrow. It takes it a while to stay up. So day 5 is going to be that reflection piece, okay? So we're going to kind of continue on, and I'm going to help hopefully explain this a little bit more to you, because you're like, oh my gosh, this is heaven. This is great. So let's keep moving.
You want to answer? One of the questions is, what are other students doing?
So it truly varies. It depends on where they are in that learning of those 5 days. So they're writing, they're completing graphic organizers, they're collaborating, they are completing discussions, they are working on grammar. It depends on where they are during that time. I'll be honest with you, I try to keep my groups at all different areas. So the way that I started it was like I started with my 3rd grade group, and then another day or 2 later, I then started the 4th grade, and then another day or 2 later, I started the 6th grade, because I didn't want it all to be like on everybody on the same exact day. We're all going to be reading a book. It gets super distracting sometimes when I have like 3 books that I'm reading to, each group, like they all want to listen in. So it just makes it easier if I try to vary it. So I stagger the lessons as much as possible. So that's kind of what I end up doing. It makes it easy on me. So let's chat really fast about how your blocks are right now, because the way that you are describing to me about your time blocks, you have a reading instruction time where you give your lesson, they go out and practice. And then you have a writing instruction time where you give your lesson and then they go out and practice. But why did we do that? Reading and writing has always meant to be put together, right? We all know this. I mean, again, what I am telling you right here, it's not new. Connecting reading and writing and this idea of it, and going back and forth and saying, "Ooh, see what we did in reading class, we're now going to be doing it just like we learned about it here in writing." We all know that's right, but why do we teach during two separate times? And my answer to you is going to be because of state testing. When state testing came about, we saw an importance of making sure that these two blocks gave their a different attention. But who got more attention? Reading gets more attention, and our writing tends to fall behind. I don't know about you guys, and you guys can tell me down in the comments too. Like, your writing instruction, like, tell me how your kids are in writing. Have you seen a fall in your kids' abilities in writing? Because I have. I absolutely have. And I see it in my own child with Ian. I see it in my students. But it's fallen. Like, it's not getting any better. So how do we fix that? And it's mainly because of state testing. We put a greater emphasis on reading because that's where it's at, right? So how do we help that? And that's where another one of the reasons why I started working to develop this was because of what I was seeing in my own classes with their writing. It was awful. Absolutely awful. And I'm going to be real with y'all. And you guys tell me, I feel like we hate teaching writing as teachers. We hate it. We hate writing ourselves. I can't tell you how many times I have to open up and, like, you guys know I'm in Capella right now, going through grad school. I hate writing and I teach it and I love teaching it, but I hate to write. And so how do we help our kids with this? How do we make them better writers? Because they're going to have it for the rest of their lives. Think about if they have to write a report. Think about if they have to, try to sell a pitch to somebody. They have to write it. They have to be able to tell a good story. Whether you're in marketing or you're a doctor or you're a police officer, anywhere you go, there's going to be some sort of writing that's going to happen, right? So, anywho, I feel like it's all state testing's fault. I'm sorry, I couldn't say that without laughing. All right, so here we go. Let's go on to the next one. I always forget which one is which. So what does this look like in my classroom? What does bridging literacy look like? Now you guys understand, what my schedule is. I have 3 groups, right? That's it, 3 lessons that I have to do. And then unicorns, I love that you love writing. I just love you. You're the best. But I have 3 groups that I have to plan for. That's it. So what does this look like? So what I did is I took my reading instruction and my writing instruction and I fused them together, all right, into one lesson. And so I no longer have to teach a reading mini lesson with guided reading groups and then a writing mini lesson with groups or conferring or whatever it is. I got rid of that. So I removed the 2 separate instructional times. And you know why? Because, again, just like we do as good teachers, guys, we always come back to it. During writing, how many times did you say, hey guys, in reading we did this today? Well, here's how this is going to look in writing. How many times have you done that? A ton, I bet. A ton. Because that's what we do as teachers. So I got rid of that and I made it all into one. I really wanted to focus on the reading skill first in order to build it into writing. So the reading is the analyzing. It's the learning of the skill. It's the understanding. Whereas the writing then becomes the application of it. So if you think about it, it's your levels of understanding. So you have to be able to understand the reading. You have to be able to analyze. You have to be able to synthesize and be able to get all of those pieces before you're able to apply it into your own writing and apply it well. So back when we were talking about those writing standards that are super broad and no one can ever understand, guys, the whole develop a character fully, what is that? Somebody tell me, what is develop a character fully? Like, they left it so unbelievably broad. But when you take that develop a character fully and you take those reading standards for what they're doing in reading, when they're being able to describe the setting, when they're able to analyze a character's traits, when they're able to identify the character change, that's developing a character. It's being able to talk about the feelings, the movements, the thoughts that are occurring within that character, to show the change that's happening based on the events that are going on. That's developing a character. So when we put them together side by side, they all make sense. Everything good? I think. All right, that doesn't make me nervous. So that's one. So I teach the reading skills in order to apply them to the writing. And then I wanted to make sure that I was utilizing that graphic organizer appropriately. All right. And so I'm really, really big about whatever graphic organizer that I'm using to teach that reading skill at the beginning. I then use it to help them plan for their writing, because we need to have really good plans before we throw our kids into writing. All right. Hey guys, I'm going to give you the best thing that I'm going to tell you, other than bridging literacy. All right. I mean, that's pretty darn good. But I'm going to tell you another really good thing that you're going to apply to your writing tomorrow. Okay. You ready? You're going to do this tomorrow, and you're going to tell me how much you love it and how hard it was for your kids. But what you're going to do is you're going to go to your kids and you're going to tell them, hey, let's list all of the really small things that we do in a day, like waking up, like brushing our teeth, like packing your lunch, like walking to the bus stop. Give me some more. Like eating your cereal. Really, really, really small moments. Okay, and your kids will get super creative with this. But then what you're going to tell them is you're going to take that small moment and then you're going to write 5 sentences off of it. So guys, this is so unbelievably hard. You know why? Because they have to stretch it. Guys, a kid can tell you a story. Any kid can tell you a story. They like talking about themselves. Bless it. They love telling you stories. But whether they tell you just a story, like giving you the this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, or a super descriptive, pulling it apart and being able to stretch that moment, that's what's hard. So you're going to go tomorrow and you're going to pull that into your lessons to give them some practice with really stretching a story. Like I did it last year. I started it last year. And so when we started doing this last year, I did waking up, because I would talk about how my arm would reach out and it would be too cold. And so I would really quickly like pull my arm back in underneath the blanket of the warmth of the blanket. And like I would hit the pause of the screeching sounds that were happening from my alarm. And then I would close my eyes drowsily because I was just so exhausted. You get the picture. Like this is me waking up. So do that with your kids. You're going to love it. It's fun. And it's really, really good practice to them too. Okay, so utilizing that same graphic organizer, they need time to plan. They need to understand what are all of the different pieces that they're doing before they can just go out and write, because they can't just write it out. They need to have that plan. I also made sure that I built in time for confirming. Guys, the best instructional time that you give to any of your students is going to be one-on-one, because you are truly customizing that instruction to fit their needs, and you're giving them feedback, which is what they need more than anything. They don't need you to sit there and just lecture to them or just give them all the information. They need time for feedback so that they know what they're supposed to be doing, and it sets their purpose for their independent time for the day. So building that time for conferring. And then I also want to draw attention to the fact that we're doing 50-50 for both reading and writing instruction. No more is this whole, I'm going to give an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes to my reading block, and then I'm only going to give about 30 minutes to my writing block, because that's not enough time for my kids to be writing. It's not enough. And if you feel like, well, I have to have it, well, they need to be writing, you tell me which one's more purposeful. Is it more purposeful for them to be reading about something and really digging deep into it to understand it, responding to it, and responding to it very well, let me say on top of that, with evidence and supports and all of this that has to kind of be, all those things that we ask of kids when they're writing, they have to do it responding to reading? Or do you think it's just good enough to let them sit down and just start free writing? Which do you think is better? Because I'm going to tell you, I think having it be more purposeful and have it be something where they're really understanding they understand the skills that are kind of going behind it, and for them to have to support all of their thinking is better use of their time than just letting them sit there and free write. Because a lot of the times they're practicing things and they're doing things in their writing and they're not doing it correctly. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had kids where it's like I send them off and I would have them write and they would be doing things completely wrong, and they kept doing it wrong and they kept doing it wrong because they kept practicing it wrong. And it's like, but now I got to try to get that out of your brain and tell you not to do it that way. And it's really hard, especially after they've written, so-called 20 books. And you're like, oh, all right, well, let's go back and let's try to fix those. It's just hard. So I would say the other is more authentic. And then we have the components. All of these components, guys, are being hit, and they're being hit authentically. You have comprehension, you have fluency, you have vocabulary, you have skills, which is your comprehension. You have your writing, you have your grammar, you have your word study. All of it's being hit authentically within that 5-day period. All of it. With one text, all being able to support one another, and the kids get it. They understand the purpose of it. So, you guys with me so far? Everybody still good? Here's what we like to say, or actually Pam Allen says that, but I have heard it places and I had to go and find who actually, so I could credit the person who came up with it, because I didn't come up with this, but I love it. Reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. We need to have both, right? To me, it's like, I'm going to breathe this reading in. I'm going to really understand it. And so when I go to breathe out and I go to write it, I get it. It all is going to look like a direct mirror of one another. And that's what we say a lot of the times too, is that kids should, and I'm going to say should because I don't think they are, because writing instruction has gotten so far down, kids should be a direct mirror for what they are in their reading. So for instance, if they are reading really well-developed books, their writing should be the exact same. So a really good example that I think is easier to understand. When I taught in kindergarten, I had kids who were at a level A. And so for those of you who don't know Fontes of Purnell or don't teach kindergarten at all, a level A is basically a cat or a dog, or I see a book, I see a cat. So for some reason I use cat a lot. But that's like your level A. And so when they read that way, guess how they're going to write? I see a chair. I see a pen. I see a desk. They're going to try to write that way. Of course, phonetically, like towards that end word, but they're using those sight words because that's what you've been teaching them. But then if you go into like your level D's and your level E's, they're more varied sentences, right? They're a little bit different. It's not that the same pattern over and over and over again. They have a little bit of a story to it. And when I would see my kids read that, that's exactly how they would write. Now, it wouldn't be perfect, but they would write that way. So kids should have a direct mirror. And so as they went up into the system, like as their grade, like they went into the other grades, you really started to see a shift and a difference between them. They would continue reading higher and higher, but yet their writing just wasn't always able to keep up. And again, I say it's because of how we approach our writing instruction. So here are the benefits to having this bridging literacy method put into place in your classroom. So one, I like to say it cuts down on instructional time. It's less of you sitting up there like the Charlie Brown teacher, blah, 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 blah. Less of that, because we know that kids need more practice. They need to have more time to practice on a skill and also receive feedback. Let me mind you, not just practice and leave them alone for 80% of your class period, but they need that 80% to truly practice with feedback. And 20% of you is really providing that instruction. Now, this is a business term that's out there. It's been out there forever. But I've recently started applying it into my own classroom. So Trent, you're so much better at saying like how it is. 20% of your something leads to 80% of your results. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, that's how you want to focus on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Focus your 80% of your time towards your 20% of your sales in sales.
Yeah.
So your customers, but in this case, whatever you're focused on.
Yeah. So I say basically kids need to have 80% of that time to be able to practice, and they need to have that feedback within that practice. Another thing that it does is it offers more time for teachers to be able to confer. We all know the importance of conferring. We've all heard all of the different research that is out there, principals really pushing it, reading coaches pushing it to really have those time for conferences because we know what it can do for our students, and it allows us to be able to provide that feedback. And it also helps to develop really authentic writing instruction. And this is so important because, again, a lot of the time I think we do a mini lesson, we send them out to write. We can't really differentiate between the levels and the needs of our kids. And guys, there's a lot of needs and a lot of levels that are happening inside of our classrooms. But it's hard to do that. But when you have them grouped, you're going to start to see that there's just naturally, it just starts to happen. Like they all kind of write the same way. It's the weirdest thing, but it's the coolest thing on top of that. And then it allows your students to be able to develop those connections and develop them authentically. So they see it in their reading, they get to understand it in their reading. So when you go to tell them to do it in their writing, it's not this, huh? It's this, I know exactly what it is that I'm doing. Or, oh, that makes so much sense. Or, ooh, I have this really great idea for these characters. You'll start to see like little sparks like go off in their heads because they start to really get it and understand it and then get excited about it. And then it allows for your instruction to become more strategic and meaningful, which is where I feel again, and guys, I felt like this for the longest, okay? So I think I'm also speaking about myself for the many years in the past. I felt like my writing instruction just didn't really have like a true strong purpose. Like I was always struggling with where am I going with my writing and what am I supposed to be doing? And I slowly started to develop these methods. I mean, pretty early into my career, I was pretty fortunate enough to have that opportunity to do it because I didn't have a curriculum that I had to live and breathe by. But it was a struggle. It was a really big struggle for me. But now it's strategic and it's meaningful. I know exactly that if I'm going to be doing 3 or 4 different reading skills, I want to see those skills within their writing. So we already have a rubric built off of it. We already know exactly where we're going to be going and what the end result should look like for my students. And then it also creates that simpler approach to reading and writing for teachers. It cuts down on our planning. You tell me, you want to plan for 6 or 7 lessons for each of your reading classes on top of maybe math and science and social studies and all the other things you got to do? Or would you rather just plan for 3? You tell me, which one do you think is better? Because I'll tell you, I loved only planning for 3. So there it is, guys. And of course, you know I'm going to say it. I have a community. It's the Bridging Literacy Community membership. It is still getting its tweaks here and there, and I've still been working on figuring it all out. But guys, we're offering it at a really low price because we know that we're in the processes of trying to figure out how do we want to structure everything. What do we want it to look like? What do we want to be able to offer everyone? And so as we're kind of building this, build it with me. Build this, join the community, build this with me, and help me understand how I can help you. Because a lot of the times I feel like in my head it all makes sense and it's super easy for me, but then it might not make sense to you because we don't have the same brain. So if you join this community, you get access to all the resources that I end up making, that I put up. I've just started getting ready to create a new we call them our forums. And one of the forums is on a play-by-play guide to helping you get started with the bridging literacy method inside of your classroom. So all of the different pieces that you have to think about, the players that you have to think about before you can just jump in and just boom, I'm going to do bridging literacy. So these are all of the things that I've thought about beforehand that will really help you too. So it's $50 to be able to join the membership for a year. That comes down to like $4 a month. And then it's $7 a month if you want to do like a month-by-month plan. Do this now. I cannot even tell you guys, if you think that this is something that you need, that is going to benefit you, that's going to help you, or if you just want to join to be able to have really good conversations with some inspiring and amazing people that are in there, do it, because this will not always stay $7. It will not always stay $50. As we build it and as it gets bigger with the resources in there, the prices will go up. It's just, go now so you can have the really low price. All right, I'm done.
You had a couple questions about having more students. So breaking up if they have more students between 28 to 33 students, and kind of going about how to break up those groups.
So you would break up your groups the way you would break up any of your guided reading groups. Now, the thing that I try to tell myself, guys, is I'm not going to try to stick to the whole guided reading ideas of they need to be no more than 6 students. I don't live by that rule. Okay. I lived by that rule when I taught kindergarten, not when I teach upper elementary, because there is literally no time. And how much do you hate? Because let me tell you, I hated this. How much do you hate having 2 or 3 groups that are on the exact same level, exact same skills and understandings, and yet you taught them at 2 different times, and then those kids would listen in, and then they would know everything before you would be able to say it? How annoyed were you during that? Because I hated that. So my thing to you would be that you don't have to live by the 6 rule, all right? I would live by all right, where is their level of thinking at? How much scaffolding are they going to need? And then what grade levels are there going to be? Am I going to have to provide a lot of supports from the previous grade level in order for them to understand it? Or do I feel like these kids are going to get it, and they're going to get it so fast that they're going to be able to go super, super quick? They're going to fly through the curriculum. I would base it more off of that than I would off of trying to stick to a number per kid per group. It's not reasonable. As you get higher up in there, they give you more kids. It's what do you want me to do? I can either meet with them every single day, like a good teacher would, or I can meet with them every other day and put them in a group of 6. And then for an hour and a half, they're going to be sitting there having nothing to do. You tell me, is what I would say to an administrator. Guys, don't do that, but think it. I'm sorry. I try to be super respectful and kind. I would just say it in a nicer way. All right. Is that a good one?
Daniel asks, are students working on longer writing pieces that they will continue to develop, or are they working on standalone skills based on short writing pieces?
So Daniel, that's a really great question. I have 2 different writings. So one piece, I try to typically get through one writing piece, which I do. I get through one writing piece in about a 3 to 4 week span. And so that's me taking them through the entire writing process. And I'm going to tell you right now, the bulk of that writing time is spent planning. It's spent brainstorming. It's spent putting them into graphic organizers. And I do lots of graphic organizers. By the end of it, they're going to have about 3 or 4 of them, because one graphic organizer kind of gets the broad piece out. And then it's we take one of those broad pieces and we kind of dig into it a little bit further to help them really process out all of the ideas that they have going on in their brain, so that when they do sit down and write, they have a more focused idea of where their lesson is going. So they have one lesson that'll take 3 or 4 weeks to get through, and that's me taking them through that writing process. And then they have any free writes that they'll do, or if I give them some of those smaller challenges, which I do, and I do it pretty often because we put them into discussion posts. It's just fun. The kids have a really good time. I did it with setting. I did it with character traits. I had some with feelings. Tell me you open a door and you're scared or something. What was that? Help me understand what that was like. I want you to pull that apart. Those are just quick writing practices. And it's funny, Daniel, because I was I was reading through an article. I think it was an article, maybe it was a podcast. I could not for the love of me remember. And I was talking to Michelle about this today. But what I was reading is that writers, true writers, like people who are trying to write books, they will often tell themselves, oh, hi. They will often tell themselves that they try to tell themselves to write every single day. So they want to write about 400 words. And so there are times when they are rushing, but they still need to get in that time because they need the practice. So sometimes it's super, what is it called? Like not coherent, but the opposite. What is that word? Why can't I think of it? But it's not coherent. And so they just kind of type to get all of the ideas and just to get that practice. Same with our kids. They just need that practice sometimes. So if we give them more structured, strategic practice of really stretching a story out, which is what they need, they've had enough practice of first, next, then last. Now we need to stretch it into a real story. So we do some of those as well throughout. But yes, I hope that answers your question. One within a 3 or 4 week period, it's like the true writing piece. And then we have either some little practices in there or they get some free writing in. Jillian, you said, how can I do this model with informational reading? It's the exact same thing. So informational, we're going to be starting that in about a week or two. We've had like some issues with a snow day and just other little things that have been happening, but it'll be the exact same thing. So I'm going to end up starting my informational unit with text features. We'll go into text structure. I'm a little weird because I teach my text structures before I teach main idea and key details. In my opinion, I think if a student understands it, can identify the text structure, it's a lot easier for them to identify the main idea and key details. So we'll start with a piece of something that they know all about. So that's going to be their just bare like informational. It's either a how-to, or maybe they tell me about their dog or like dogs, or they tell me about the processes of baking. I'm trying to think of some ideas. Some kids have told me in the past, like how to play chess, how to play soccer. There are different ones that are out there. So they will end up starting with one of those. And then once we get into main idea and key details and we start going to author's purpose and that, like, they'll start looking more into research. And so we'll start researching a topic. And then the final one is going to end up being our persuasive writing at the end of the informational unit overall. So it's the exact same thing. It'll work the same way. Reading and writing is meant to be taught together, guys. I cannot say it enough. It was never meant to be separated. So, all right. So,
how do you do small groups with reading? Has that already been gone over?
So small groups with reading. Hun, do you have those papers that I might? Yep, they're right there over there. Can I have those?
Where at?
Those papers.
Oh.
Thank you. So I'm glad that you mentioned this. The kindergarten of learning. Oh, just love you. I'm glad that you mentioned this. So my small groups are pretty simple. I don't try to go extravagant with them. Now, one of the things that I was going to present to my Bridging Literacy community members, my BLC members is what I call them, are lesson plan templates. So I've been working really hard and trying to figure out a way to make sure that this is like exactly how I want to have it. You guys know how that is sometimes. Sometimes you're like, is this good? Is this good enough? So I have different lesson plan formats. So this would be one of them. This is like the first day, that engagement day, right in the vocabulary that's built in. And then you have an author's craft day. And it always goes back, like I have my mentor text titled, I have my purpose, I have my example. I give them the we do piece of it. Sometimes I have an activity, sometimes I don't. It truly depends on the skill and how much practice I need to give my students. That's why I say that the method will last a good, I would say 5 to maybe 8 days. Maybe 8 days. And then we have the we do, you do. So this is like the skill. No, it's not. This is the author's craft. This is the writing lesson. I have them in the mixed order. I'm sorry. This is the reading skill. So this would be where I have the mentor text, state my purpose. I would model for them what I would want them to do. Now they would try it again, activity if I need to have an activity. The y'all do, so that's a practice that they would do on the same day, and then they would go out and have an independent piece. And then finally, I have days where I focus on grammar and word study. Now, this would be part of my writing. So it's like 50-50. I spent time reading, and now I spend time really focusing on that writing piece to kind of mirror that. And I have my grammar and word study. So I would have my sentence. I would have the part of speech, the word study that I would want to focus on from that sentence, the sentence variety. For some reason, I couldn't think of the exact phrasing that I wanted this to be, but like compound sentences, like independent clauses, and complex compound, like those types of sentences, sentence variety, right, guys? I'm having a brain fart? Again, activity if it's optional, and then I would do a we do, you're going to do something right here in group with me so that I can give you constructive feedback, and then afterwards you're going to go and do something independently, and that would be considered part of my assessment, my formative assessment. So that's what my small groups look like. That's one lesson. That's what it is. So it's very, very simple, but that's going to be something that I'm going to offer to the BLC members, and that's going to go up pretty soon.
Sorry.
Dog is barking.
I thought I was knocking at the door.
Okay. So, any other questions? Why did you put in that I still haven't painted the stairway black?
Because I was looking at the background and it's black. And I'm like, do I want to paint the stairway black?
He does. He does.
I don't want
guys,
to.
I literally, I have to tell you guys this real fast. Intermission. Like, is this an intermission?
This is while I'm getting ready giveaway ready.
Okay, so this is a picture that I was like sitting on my couch. And Trent was upstairs. He was playing with Blaine. And as I'm sitting on the couch doing work, I'm like, I was like, this would look really cool, like black, this stairway that I have. Because like when you sit in my living room, you can see the stairway like going up. And I want that wall to be black. And so this is the picture. So I like took a picture and then I colored it in. And I was like, do you love me? And then I just painted. I wanted him to paint that black. It would look really awesome, right? You guys should tell him to do that. All right. You would love it. Kindergarten of Learning. How do you manage your students and your classroom? So in the very, very beginning, it takes a lot of time for me giving them bits and pieces. I don't throw everything at them because it gets to be too much and they're not going to do it well. So in the beginning, we spend time just building stamina, like at the beginning of the school year. And I did it again at the start of January. We did a lot of stamina. We did a lot of discussion of what it looks like, sounds like there. And then from there, we started adding responses in. Then we started adding groups and then group work. And then I started adding book talks and book reviews. So I add things little by little so that it can build, and it builds naturally versus me feeling like I'm just shoving a ton of stuff down their throat. So at the end of it, like I'm constantly watching, but my kids are so busy. I keep them so busy with all the work that they're doing. They don't really have time to rest. So they're either reading a book, they are working through a collaborative assignment with group members or with partners, which they love that part, love it, or they're working on writing pieces or discussions. And so I'm constantly either walking around, but what's nice is that, again, if you look at my block, I have 30 minutes. Guys, I'm only in group for about 45 minutes to an hour. And typically, like in between those groups, I get up, I walk around, I check in with students, I make sure students are good to go, that everybody's good. It's fantastic. Like I have so much more time now. So much. Dog got in the live chat. Sure did, Lyle. Sure did.
They're trying to make me paint the wall black again.
You should.
I like this one. I'm not even against this one. I like it. I think it's
I love that you're using my makeup bag for this
giveaway.
Well,
I'm trying.
He found the one thing that was like lying there, and it's my makeup bag. just threw everything out of it, which is the noise that he was making.
I dumped it.
You dumped it still, either way. All right. Lola says, how do I get reluctant readers to read for independent reading? I have some that just refuse to read. Right there, I totally understand. They're either reluctant or they love like the lower level, no substance, like the characters are all flat and there's no way for them to engage in that conversation. So something that I've done is I will have book tastings periodically. And I'm super sorry. I feel like I'm going to just throw my phone so that you can just look at it on my phone. But I did take a picture. I never posted it. I'm so bad about that, guys. I like get busy or lazy. It's one or the other. So that's what it looks like. All of those are little placemats that I've purchased in the past. Like I would go to Walmart and I would just buy one every once in a while. And so this is one group. And then what I did is I selected some really good texts that I think kids would enjoy, but that were also really good to the conversations that we were going to be having based on the skills. And so I then had a book tasting and they have a little packet that they completed. They would just go around, they would read, they would rotate. They loved it. I talked in an accent. It was like their favorite. Couldn't do it for very long, but it happened. And then I tell them that they have to read it. Then we have something called, and I cannot for the love of me think of a good name for this. So maybe next time I'm going to have you guys come up with a name for it. But what it is, and I'm like looking around to see if I can find it. I think I see it. Should I get up and get it or should I make you go get it?
What am I doing?
So can you open that door? I'm going to make Trent do it. Can you pull out where that black container down at the bottom that has all those binders? Can you bring that here?
All of it?
I think. Is it in the way? Oh, that one's not it. Are you it? Bingo! No, it's not it either. I thought it was. And it wasn't. Guys, I have too much junk.
Yes.
Ugh. All right. Anyways, I'm just going to talk you guys through it. So they have folders like this. And inside of the folders are these little sheet protectors, but what I have inside of them are like little post-it note spots. So it has like 6 squares where they would be able to put a post-it note right on top. But here's the nice part is that it goes along with the lessons that I've given. So like, let's say I've done a lesson where they can describe a setting in depth. So at the top, it would say, I can describe a setting in depth. So as they're reading, I've been encouraging them that every time they read about 1 to 2 chapters, they have to come up with at least 3 sticky notes. But they would find one for setting, then maybe they would have one for character traits, then maybe they would have one for mood and tone. So it would really depend on what they have in their folders, but they were responsible for that. And then what those folders did for them is that they would bring them to group and maybe we would start the conversation and I would say something to the extent of, hey guys, so yesterday we talked a lot about how a character's feelings can really tell us about their traits, their intrinsic characteristics. I want you to share from the readings that you're doing independently, what are some of the feelings that you're finding in your own characters? So the kids would open up their folder, they would go to that I can statement, and they would tell me what they would find. And so from there, at the end of the week, when they get to that reflection, that post-it note folder would have all of the evidence to support their thinking in that reflection. So they would have a way to be able to go back and be able to give examples from their text. Really, what I'm doing is I'm trying to teach them how to, 1, pick a variety of texts. 2, I'm trying to help them explore genres. 3, I'm also trying to get them to make connections between what we're reading about in group to what they're reading about, what they're reading in independent time. And 4, how to keep track of their thinking over a big chapter book, because kids can't do that. They can't, they need smaller text. That's all they've ever dealt with. So in 4th grade, you're teaching them how to do this in a bigger book, and it's hard. So that's kind of where that comes into play. And that really does encourage them. They get super excited. Like a book tasting, y'all, they love it. Like my kids who only read Diary of Wimpy Kid or Dog Man or whatever, they love these new books. Love them. It was fantastic. All right. Sorry. That's all I got to say. Lyle says you're a great husband.
I know. I appreciate that.
All right.
Are you ready?
And then Sherry says, happy wife, happy life. Black wall it is. Girl, I love you. All right. Here we go. Where are we at? Crystal, what grade level is this for? I teach 4th, 5th, or 6th grade, but it is applicable to any grade, to be honest. So bridging literacy can work well for any grade level. You'll start to see kind of and make those connections. But I really focus a lot of my instruction right now because this is where I'm focused at is the upper elementary. Maybe later on when I can truly make this into something big and grand, we can start exploring lots of grade levels. Another thing that just kind of came to my head and seeing Leslie pop up on her comment at the bottom really made me remember this. So Leslie, thank you. Is that book talks are another great way to get kids to encourage them to want to read other books and to read in general because kids love sharing ideas or they love to make movie trailers. And this is a really great way to do that. So I love doing book talks with my students. All right. Oh, Daniel, you just joined. Fantastic. I am so excited. Okay, Daniel, you're in Australia. Am I correct? Australian school starts at the end of this month for the year. Very awesome. One, I hope you are safe wherever you are. All the prayers are going towards you guys. Two, I am going to Australia in June, right? With Book Bag Tours. Isn't it June? It is June.
Yeah.
So I've become a leader for Book Bag Tours, if you guys haven't heard about that. And now they changed their name to BBT. So they're just like BBT. You can find them up on social media. So I'm traveling with them to Australia this June for 2 weeks, and we're going to be going into some of the schools. I know for a fact that we're going to Sydney, and I think, do you remember where the second place was? I can't even remember right now, but I'm very, very excited about it. Okay, you ready?
Ready? Giveaway.
This is my bag. This is my makeup bag that my husband. Oh wait, there's nothing in it.
I know. I'm gonna drop it. We gotta do the effect.
All right, effect. It's like a cool camera thing.
I missed one. 2 fell out. Does that mean they're out of luck?
No.
I think 1 fell out. Right?
Oh, it did. All right. Do you guys always get nervous? I get nervous for you. It's like I love doing these, but I hate doing them at the same time. All right, here we go. Dawn Stork. I hope I said that name correctly.
My writing was terrible.
Your handwriting is very bad. Dawn, you are the winner of the year-long for Bridging Literacy Bowtie Teacher. Just love you. So Dawn, are you in the chat? Can you say, yay, I won? Or let us know. Let us know that you are still in the chat. I feel like they still have to be in the chat, right?
Yeah, they should have to be.
You have to be in the chat in order to win. So
must be present to win.
Must be present to win. Oh, Alexis, you're so nice. Congrats, Dawn. You are the winner for the year of the Bridging Literacy community.
So do we just wait a couple minutes?
I think we wait a couple minutes. You guys are all so nice and supportive.
Friendly.
Holy mackerel. I have the best community ever. It just makes me happy. I love it. Fantastic. You guys are great. But yeah, so hopefully he's going to paint the wall black this weekend or this week while I'm at school. By the way, guys, I also have to throw this out.
It's hard to do the trim because it gets all over the place.
I want to hear it. I still just want it to be done. So here's the other thing. While we're waiting for Dawn to kind of say, yep, I'm here, to make sure that they're going to get entry into Bridging Literacy, I have to tell you guys, this last week has been rough because we are down a vehicle. So the truck has gone in limp mode, which if you have a diesel truck, if you're somebody who has a diesel truck out there, it just was not loving us. And it went into limp mode. So we're waiting for some machine thing to help get it out. So poor Trent has been having to wake up in the mornings, and he does not wake up as early as I do. Y'all know that I love to get to school super early. So he's been having to drive me every single day. So it's going to start again tomorrow. He has to drive me to school. But I also have to tell you guys, does anyone else, like if you don't have your car at school, do you get like super anxious about the day? Like you just feel like you have no way out. Like I truly feel there is no way for me to get out of here. So I don't know. I've been super anxious about that. Should we try it again?
I was just about to say, I think so.
I feel like you have to be present.
Yeah.
I know I'm a talker,
If she
but
shows up before we sign off, we might have 2 winners.
yeah. All right, I'm doing it again. Trent Daniel, what is this? Your handwriting.
Tina Laws.
Tina! Second winner. Tina, are you here? I feel like we had about 20 people drop out. Tina Laws, are you in the chat? You are the new official person for the Bridging Literacy community. Oh, sorry, Dawn. Oh, man, I love it. You guys are fun. I really like hanging out with you guys on no Tina?
It just happened.
All right.
It just posted.
But
There's a long delay, so.
I really enjoy talking with you guys. I do get really, really nervous when I get onto these chats for some reason. I just always get super anxious, but it always works out really well, and I love hanging out with you guys and just seeing you guys in the chats.
We made a third one.
So numero tres. I'm gonna just sit here and shake the bag.
How do you know if you can use something in your method in Brazil? We will be back to school in February.
Oh, you can use it for anything. You can use it for anything because literacy instruction, whether it's in one language or the other, it's still the same thing. It's the idea of being able to, it's reading and writing together. So it's just, you can absolutely use this method for both. No, you do not have to apologize about your English. You are totally fine. But yes, you can use this for any method anywhere around the world, and it works.
Tina's here.
Yay! Tina! You got it. You are in. Tina is in the house. And we have a winner for Bridging Literacy. Congratulations, Tina.
Email Bridget at the letter.
Okay, so Tina, email Bridget, Bridget. Can you put that in there? At theletteredclassroom.com. And then Trent will get you hooked up, and he will get you inside of that community so you can have access to all of the resources and materials. You guys know, always join in. I'm always doing these little giveaways. But yes, fantastic. All right, it's 8:30. I've gone well past my time. But again, this is a talk that is very near and dear to my heart. I love Bridging Literacy. I love for what it's done for my instruction. I love what it's done for my students more than anything else, because I have seen tremendous growth with them, and I find myself less stressed, more confident when it comes to my instruction within my classroom. So thank you all so much for chiming on in, sticking with me for about an hour and a half. You guys are amazing. Can you please go ahead and while you are here, just give that video a thumbs up. Go ahead and just click it right now. So that way, it just gets out. It gets out to more people. It does better. It helps me out on sharing it with more people.
We'll probably take it down and repost it.
Okay.
Otherwise it dies overnight.
Yeah, so it'll end up coming down, guys, but tomorrow, this is going to be my video for tomorrow. So I'm not going to have like a normal just video type go up. This will be my video for tomorrow because, again, I really want this to go out to as many people as possible. If you find there are other teachers at your school, administrators, reading specialists, reading coaches that you think would really benefit from hearing this talk, hearing about the Bridging Literacy Method, I encourage you to share it with them. Just hit that share button, send it out as a message, copy the link, however it is. It will be up again tomorrow at some point in the day. So thank you so much. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I so appreciate every single one of you for always giving up your time to spend it with me. It just means a lot. It really, really does. I hope you have a fantastic week. All goes well, hopefully. And I will catch you all next week. Trent's not ready.
I'm not ready.
Bye.